clear my throat. Got some phlegm here. Compose myself. Some of it's trepidation about what I'm about to talk about. Composure, countdown, lights, camera, action. Good morning. Today is November 13, 2022. It's about 6:30 a.m. here in Henderson, Nevada. I want to talk about my Aunt Phyllis Kreiner. Phyllis Area Keys, born in Kokomo, Indiana in 1939. My dad's sister. I grew up with this lady. She taught me how to ride a bicycle. I'm one of the few people who remember the sound of her mother's voice. That would be my grandmother Iria. We have several Irias in the family now. Alexander Iria, Phyllis Iria, and Erica Iria. So the roots of the Keys family run deep across the generations and the different branches of our family. I remember my Aunt Phyllis being there at Christmas when I was a little boy, and I ran straight to her that day instead of my own mother. So my Aunt Phyllis had a very sweet spot in my early life. And I grew up in Pensacola, and they would come to town because they were Navy people, travel the world, and there was always a huge event when she would show up, and I was so happy to see her too. And then she had Leslie and Bobby and traveled around, and he finally decided to retire back in Pensacola, Florida, of all places. In the whole world where they've been, they came back to the hometown. About the time that I was getting married and having children of my own, Phyllis even participated in sewing the wedding dresses of the bridesmaids in my wedding. And Leslie, my cousin, was in the wedding. And then when we had Carl, I remember her, Phyllis, sitting there in the rocking chair with my son, holding him with such an adoring face, and so admiring of him. And then something happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but the relationship between my dad and his sister Phyllis, my aunt, went to shit. And then I almost never saw Phyllis again. I think the last time I actually saw her was at my mother's video store when they just happened to walk in while I was there. And whatever happened rubbed off on me. For what reason? But Phyllis and Bob and Leslie and Bobby regarded me like a stranger. I didn't feel like family at that point. And ever since then, and that's been 30 years ago, Alan and Karen and Erica, my dad, and everybody who's privy to my dad having a sister named Phyllis Area Keys, married Kreiner, knows that something went awry. And even though my dad told me he made overtures to repair the relationship with Phyllis, it never happened. So my dad got older and older and older, and the relationship with Phyllis got more and more distant in everyone's mind, but never completely out of mind, because Alan and Karen and Eric and my dad would all occasionally ponder what happened with Phyllis and why she, if she had a problem with my father, would throw out Bobby Keys and Alan Keys and Karen Keys and Erica Keys and my children and her whole Keys side of the family. I never did anything bad to Phyllis except be her nephew. So Dad was 89 coming out of a rehab, and Alan had the audacity to take my dad over to see his sister maybe one final time. Actually, that turned out to be the final time, sissy. Because my dad died September 27, 2022. And whatever ill will existed between you two will stay that way until your dying day now. Whatever resentment you had about being a Keys or affiliated with Robert's side of the family was unwarranted as far as Alan and Karen and Erica and Bobby were concerned. We have been without an Aunt Phyllis most of our lives. We have been deprived of that relationship for something that none of us ever did except just be related to your brother. And how was that characterized? That he was like a cigarette burn on you? That cigarette went out. It's still not too late. I don't know if you'll ever see this. And like I said, I started off with a very queasy stomach, wondering whether I should say any of this out loud and record it, much less than that. But I want you to know you've always been in the minds and hearts of me and Erica and Alan, and we always wished we had an Aunt Phyllis.